I'm back for another video. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of my makeup while I talk. So this is the palette I'll be using, and I'm gonna start off with hydrating my lips with Blistex Hemp Shea Hydration. It works for me. I already moisturize my face, and I'm just gonna put on eyeshadow and lipstick. That's all. And I'm not even gonna do any primer or nothing because I didn't bring all that with me because I'm currently on vacation in Florida, and I didn't bring any of that stuff. I just brought eyeshadow and lipstick, and this is the lipstick I'll be using. I forgot the brand. It's an indie brand, so yeah. And then I'll be moisturizing my face. I just washed my face, so I'll be moisturizing with this just to moisturize. Right, like that, all over. That's how I moisturize. Alright, so that's done. So today I thought I'd talk about my experience while living in Japan. So a lot of you don't know this, but I used to go to school in Japan. And I also used to live in Japan off and on for like 5 years. Went to school at this university called Kansai Gaidai Daigaku, or Kansai Gaidai University. It's in Osaka, Japan, and it was a international school, and it's one of the best schools in town. And I remember when I was applying to it, I had pictures of the school up all over my room because I wanted to go to this school so bad. I was like, if I can go to this school, that would be a dream come true. And then I put in my application from America, and I told them that I just want to go to this school so I can foster understanding and this and that. And then I got an acceptance letter and through the email that said I got in. And I remember I was so excited because I'm just like an orphan, like who used to live in foster care. I had doubts about myself, and then I got in, and then I got shipped to Osaka, Japan. My little black ass. And it was at a time where not a lot of black people were in Japan. It was around 2010 when I went to go to school in Japan. And around that time, it was unheard of seeing a lot of black people in Japan. Now, you see a lot more, but back then, it still was like scarce and rare. And I was in Osaka too, so it wasn't Tokyo where there's like a lot more. Because I used to live in Tokyo too, where there's a lot more black people there. That's another thing. There's certain parts of Japan where there's zero black people, and you're like the only one in town. Yeah, that's another thing too. So when I went to school there, I had already been knowing Japanese because I was studying it at the other school I was going to. So I was speaking Japanese before I even went to Japan. And when I got there, my Japanese, of course, got 10 times better, because I was, in Japan 24/7, 365. So it was easy to, pick up, read and write and stuff. I can read and write better because I was surrounded by it. And some of the things I noticed, like, for example, like before I got there, I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to use some of the body wash and some of the face washes, because a lot of people don't know this, but Japanese put bleaching cream automatically in their products. And you have to read the ingredients before you put it on your face. And I remember I was struggling with acne when I was over there, and I found some men's face wash that really worked on my skin. It cleared my skin up, and it worked really well. But then I noticed my face started to get lighter, lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And I had light spots. And I remember my roommate, and I was showing them, like, yo, look at my face. And they're like, yo, your face is falling off. And then I realized there's bleaching cream, there's bleaching ingredients in the face wash. So I had to stop using that face wash and find something else. I ended up actually getting my friend to send me my own face products from home, because I couldn't find nothing for my skin in Japan at the time to wash my face with, because I was too scared for it, to get bleach on it again. So yeah, that's what I did. I had my friend send me my face wash from America, so because I couldn't use the Japanese face products, and that's just a thing that somebody could have told me. Like, if I had, YouTube. Well, I had YouTube back then, but if I, did more research on skincare products, like nowadays you can find YouTube videos about stuff like that, or I don't know if you can, but I'm telling you now, like, there's a lot more black people living in Japan, and there's like a lot of black Japanese people too, people who are hafu, who are black and Japanese, who make YouTube videos and talk about being in Japan. They have that type of information, but I didn't have that information at my disposal at the time. So yeah, that's another thing. Like, their products automatically come with bleaching cream because they live in a society where you have to be super white to be seen as beautiful. Also, yeah, so I didn't really have a culture shock when I got there. A lot of my white friends who I went to school with in Japan, they had culture shock because they weren't used to the racism that they were experiencing in Japan. Like, for example, like, there's some cafes and restaurants we can't go into because it just say no foreigners allowed. And they were, one of my friends started crying because they were like, oh, how come they won't let us in? Oh no. And stuff, why? And it's like, don't cry about it, just go to another place. So that was another thing that was hilarious to me. I found, like, my white classmates struggled with fitting in sometimes in Japan because of the cultural difference. So a lot of people didn't like eating rice. Some people came there with a lot of allergies, and they had a hard time, dealing with their allergies and eating Japanese food. So that was that was like interesting for them. I went to school with, like, people from all over the world and stuff, and a bunch of Japanese people. So when I was going to school there, so I joined some circles. So a circle in Japan is like joining a club. So you have these after school clubs. Like, you go to class and you go to your clubs after school. So I was in the hip hop club, hip hop dance circle, when I was going to school called Body 2 or something. And I still have my shirt. I gotta show it to you guys one day. But it was a hip hop dance, and I was the only black student in that circle, and they had the nerve enough to act like, I wasn't original. Like, Japanese people are stealing from black culture, and they had the nerve enough to look at me like I was crazy. That's something that I thought was hilarious. Japanese people think they so original, and they think they made it up. They think they came up with hip hop, when in fact it's not them. And then you tell them otherwise, and then they want to get mad at you like, no, like, we did this, we came up with this style. And that's another thing when it comes to East Asia. They like to appropriate cultures and fashion senselessly. They don't even have a second thought as to wear moccasins and headdresses, box braids. They don't think about cultural appropriation over there because it's a homogenous society. And that's why a lot of people say, don't, if you're black, don't go to East Asia because you'll have, a heart attack. But it's like, it's not like you'll have a heart attack. It's just you got to get used to a homogenous society where they not used to having multiple cultures. Like, everybody assume, like, people who come to homogenous societies, they assume that it's supposed to be like America or Europe, but it's not. Like there was a time and place where everybody was separated, and there was no melting pot, and people tend to forget, like, it's not like that all over the world. And that's why when you go and visit other places where it's homogenous, you get a better sense of the culture, rather going to a place that's not homogenous. You don't get a sense of the culture because it's so melted and mixed together. Like, everything's mixed together. Like in America, it's not not pure. So Japanese pride themselves on being really homogenous and xenophobic. I remember talking to a lot of Japanese nationalists who, hate America and hate, that Japan is under America's thumb like it is. After the war, America put a lot of rules and regulations on Japan. For example, they took away the Japanese military. Japan has a military, but it's like a little defense thing for their defenses. Like, after Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Pearl Harbor, stuff like that, America thought they were big and bad, and they were like, we're gonna put some rules on y'all to follow, so this won't never happen again. So that's why Japan doesn't have, a proper military, and that's why there's so many American bases over there too, so we can give them proper military aid if needed. There you go. Purple raccoon eyes. But yeah, so there's a little bit of history about that. But I'm gonna start ranting and just give you a general sense. Being black in Japan is, if you're not used to Japanese culture, if you're going to Japan not knowing Japanese, not knowing a lick about the culture, not knowing about the food, not knowing about the mannerisms, you're gonna be culture shocked. You're gonna be taken aback, and you're gonna be upset. Because there's a lot of things that might make you upset over there. They're not used to seeing black people. Like, they might have television, they might have, internet and stuff like that, and they have newspapers. And of course, when I was living in Tokyo, Tokyoites are really up to date on what's going on around the world. Like, for example, when they're killing a lot of black people with the police. Like, I remember I used to club in Nichome a lot, and Nichome is like, I'll tell y'all later, like, about what Nichome is about. But I'm gonna go on a rant about Nichome. But I was in Nichome a lot in Tokyo, which is I think in the Shinjuku area or the Shibuya area. I can't remember. But people in Nichome, they were like, I was saying how I was gonna go back home to America, and they're like, "Are you sure? Like they're killing your people. Like police are killing y'all. Like why do you want to go back?" And I was shocked. I was like, "How you know about that? Why do you care? And because it was totally different from because when I went to Tokyo, it was around 2015, and then when I was in Osaka, it was like 2010. So totally different vibes. Knowledge wise when it comes to black people. But if you're black and you wanting to go to Japan, I suggest you learn the culture before you go. And I'm not saying that just to be like, oh, just so you just be a smartass. You need to learn the culture. You have to, or you're gonna be taken aback. Especially when you're doing public transportation and speaking to folks, like you need to know. You don't want to be rude or disrespectful. So I've had Japanese people touch my hair, touch my body without asking and stuff like that, and I'd have to back away and say stop or no, like don't touch, Or this is another thing that I like to do that makes them shocked. If they touch my hair, I will reach out my own hand and grab their hair right back, and they don't like that. They don't like that. They look at me like I'm crazy. I was like, well, you grabbing my hair, so I just want to touch your hair too. And they're like, oh, like that would and it's like, it turns into like they get embarrassed, and if you mirror the action back at them, then they realize that they acting a fool, So that's all I did was mirror the rudeness right back. Especially when it came to the train and stuff like that. I mirrored that shit right back. Anybody, there's these people called chikan, which means train molester in Japanese. And there's these men, could be women too, who come during rush hour and want to molest people on the train because they're so packed you can't see who's doing it, So that's the perfect time, like around 5 p.m., 6 p.m. when people get off work, and then in the morning when people go to work. That's when the predators come, and it's so bad that they have different trains, for women to sit at because of the molestation and the rape and stuff that happens. So a lot of people are like, "Why are you going there? So many rapists and stuff like that." But it's like there's rapists all over the world. Like you just have to be prepared and ready, to defend yourself and fight back. Not this, and I'm gonna tell you, I've only had an incident on a train once because I'm black. So a lot of Japanese people stay away from dark skinned people. That's another thing. If you're sitting down on a chair, or if you're whatever, they won't sit next to you. So you'll have an open, you'll have open spaces, to put your bags or whatever, because they don't want to sit by you. And that's another thing. They're like, oh, they don't want to. Some of my friends like, oh, they don't want to sit by us. Like, how rude. And I'm like, that's more room for you. They don't want to sit. That's on them. They want to stand up and be tired and stuff. That's on them. Let them have that, ignorance about them. It looks stupid. That's not for you to, take that within yourself and feel bad about it. Like, no, don't feel bad that they won't sit next to you. Just go about your day and carry on. Some Japanese people have talk shit about me while I'm sitting down too, and I will talk to them like, because they don't know I speak Japanese. So they'll be like, oh, that girl ugly, she's so dark, and then I be like, oh, what did you say? Thank you so much. You think I'm beautiful, stuff like that. And they, be like, nani? Like, nandato? Like, like, Nihongo hanashimasu ka? Like, hi, bitch, I can Nihongo dekiru. But, that's another thing about knowing the culture and the language. Like, sometimes they want to try to scam you too. I've had Japanese people. I'd be at the train station looking at the map, and like some Japanese people will come up to me and be like, "Oh, I can help you with the map. But you gotta give me like $20 and shit like that." And I was like, "I don't need your help. You gotta shoo them away. Like they think you're black, so they assume like." Of course, like you don't speak the language and you don't know the culture, you don't know where you're going, so they try to come up to you like, oh, I'll help you out, but like, they'll try to lure you, somewhere, and you gotta say no, no, no. You gotta have your wits about you and stuff like that. So being black in Japan definitely is a case by case basis, I like to say, because in my case I enjoyed myself, like I had fun, and at the same time maybe it's because I spoke the language and know the culture so well, so I got treated differently than a black person who doesn't speak the language and doesn't know the language well. Definitely you need to try to at least learn a little bit of the language, because they will try to disrespect you and treat you extra rude. People are like, oh, Japanese, they're respectful people. They're never rude. That's not true. Japanese people aren't exempt from being rude. Yes, they are polite society, but that don't mean they're gonna be polite to you. They will cuss you out. Okay, I like one of my friends, this Japanese dude tried to beat his ass and cuss him out because he existed. So no, like you still gotta keep your wits about you and be wary, because this is the thing that people think, like even white people, they think like, oh, like Japan's polite, this and this and this, but it's a xenophobic, homogenous society, and you will always be a foreigner in their eyes. So you will be treated like a foreigner. You understand? You won't be treated like a regular Japanese person. You will be treated like a foreigner, like an outsider. Like you won't be treated with the same respect. And that's a lot of people aren't used to the foreign lifestyle, because especially if you're American, because you're American, like I'm not a foreigner, like America. But if you go abroad and you live abroad and you live amongst the people and eat and talk with the people and laugh, you will always be a foreigner. Like there's something about being a foreigner that only foreigners know about, that you realize, like you can talk, walk, joke, juke, and jive like them, but you'll never be them. You know what I'm saying? You always be you. So that's another thing of being black in Japan is, getting used to, but also being black in Japan, we're being black in general. We're used to it. We're used to the disrespect, and we're used to the being treated differently. So it's not all that different, when we go to Japan. It's just in another language. With people who are just who look a little less different. But there's some respectful people, and I've been to my friends' houses and stuff, I spent a summer one time with my friend in like 2014. I was in Hikone, which is like a suburb outside of Osaka. And I spent the summer with my friend's family, who they're a doctor and a nurse, and they were so sweet, so accommodating, and like just wouldn't let me pay for anything, always have dinner for me ready, and I used to sleep in, so they would, they would save my breakfast for me and stuff like that. So I've lived, I've had many types of experiences in Japan, where I lived on my own. I've lived with families. I've lived, I've lived in when I was going to college, I lived in a dormitory. I'll make a separate video about college life in Japan. But for general purposes, that's how it's like kind of being black in Japan. That was my experience. I personally had a fun experience. I never went to jail. One of my friends went to jail, man. Like they were in Tokyo, and they were riding their bike, and they had a crowbar and a knife. And the reason why they had it, because the neighborhood they live in Tokyo got a lot of gang members, and it's dangerous. So that's why they had to have it. So they got stopped by the police because the knife they had was too long. So they went to the jail for like a few weeks, I think. And they ended up making a comic about it, like their experience being in Japanese jail and stuff like that. The Japanese police officers are so polite, like, and treated them nice. It's not like America where they'll throw you to the ground and put a gun to your head and stuff like that. Like, no, totally different. I never been to jail. Never, but I've been to school. I've worked there. I've had relationships there. I've dealt with the mental health system in Japan as well. So I'll make a separate video about that. But this video is just like an overview of my experience. I had every time I go to Japan, it's always a pleasant time. I've also been on Japanese TV. As well. I never found the video, but I've been like on Japanese TV like a few times. That's another thing. When you go to Tokyo specifically, they'll have cameramen waiting for foreigners to come out so they can talk to you about why you're in Japan and what are you planning on doing. And they'll also try to follow you. Like they'll try to make you a news story, for the day. And I remember I went to pick up my friend from the airport because they were visiting me in Tokyo. And the camera came up to us, and I was talking about how we were going to go to Nichome, and they wanted to come to our house and, come to Nichome with us. And I was like, no, like, no. Because Nichome, you have to be careful because Nichome, there's different people that go there, like businessmen, CEOs, DJs, like high profile people go to Nichome, so you can't be having no cameras up in there, seeing. So I thought of that. I was like, no, people keep their privacy and stuff. But yeah, so I'll make another video about Nichome specifically. I think I'll load it up today. But generally, like, it's pretty pleasant. Like, if you already enjoy Japanese culture and language, then if you should have like a fun time there in Japan. There's a lot of depression and mental illness that runs rampant in Japan, and it's left unchecked. And that's another problem that I find when I'm going to Japan. Is the saying goes, if you want to talk about your feelings, talk to a foreigner, which is very sad. They don't want to talk to each other about how they're feeling depressed and how they have bipolar. I used to date a girl who was Japanese. They had schizophrenia, and being a schizophrenic Japanese was hard for them because their parents even their parents didn't care. Like they thought it was fake. They think mental illness is a Western concept when it isn't. That's why they have some of the highest rates of suicide in the world. It's because they're so blind to the mental health of their own people. Now it's gotten a lot better. I'm not saying like it's like terrible, but it's not good either. Like the mental health problem in Japan is just so bad. Like it's so bad, and you can see it. Especially if you go to the big cities like Tokyo, Osaka. Like it's really bad in Tokyo because Tokyo's like fast. Like people are hella like two-faced. Like they don't want to get to know you on a deeper level. Like they only want to get to know you like on a surface level. Because if they get to know you too deep, that involves more emotional commitment and this and this and this, and it's like a whole thing. So, but yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna talk about today. This is my makeup. I didn't put on lipstick, but yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good day. Comment and subscribe or whatever. Like this video if you want to hear more about, Japan and some tips and tricks to be more comfortable in Japan. Also, I'm poor. I'm a poor black person. I don't got no money. So I have tips and tricks of how to live cheaply, especially in Tokyo. Like I've noticed there's no really videos of how to live cheap in Tokyo. So I think I might have to put a video up about how to live cheap in Tokyo. But yeah, so yeah, I hope you guys got some information out of this video. I'll be back with another video tomorrow, talking about more Japanese stuff. But anyway, have a good day. Blessed be. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.